Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Punt Intended Podcast, a Dynasty fantasy basketball podcast and a sports ethos production. I'm your host, Mark C., the Dynasty leader over at Sports Ethos. On today's episode, presented by FanDuel, as you can see here to my left and to below me, we have two special guests here. So make sure you're watching on YouTube and you can see who these guests are. We got Braxton and Andrew from Angle Fantasy Basketball to discuss just what can we actually take away from Summer League and what matters, and which players impressed us and maybe which players failed to impress us. A little bit of housekeeping before we get to our guest here. On Twitter, you can find me at MacAttack145. On Blue Sky, you can find me at Mark C. Sports Ethos. You can also find my Dynasty writings and rankings over at sportsethos.com. So make sure you go there and check it out. But first, actually not first, I guess second, Braxton, Andrew, how are y'all doing tonight?
Good. Excited, Mark. I'm excited I know you recently just moved to video podcast. I'm excited to be one of the first people on video podcast. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Very excited as well that you are now on video. We had a fun off-camera conversation about baseball prior to this. So shifting gears to basketball now. I know we're kind of now smack in the off-season portion, but we do have Eurobasket coming up, which is going to be pretty fun. Are you planning to watch any of that, Mark?
You know, that is a good point. I kind of not really thinking about it. I'm seeing updates and stuff about it. You know, Luka Doncic is going to play there. You know, Men's Health cover model Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
And I'm not really thinking about it now, but I am sure when it comes around, I'll probably find a way to watch it. But let's transition now back to Summer League, back to the games that have already happened in the past. And I find it really interesting that you all over at Angle Fantasy Basketball, you all put out updated rookie rankings post-Summer League, which I believe you dropped a few weeks ago, in addition to the pre-Summer League rankings. So I'm going to give you all a chance to speak about that here. What do you all look for specifically, or what are you all looking for? Is it the Summer League play particularly? Is it different contract information, free agency moves, or is it some combination of all the above? Braxton, is there anything that stands out to you, or it's just you got to take it all those factors that happen from when the draft actually occurs to the time period we're at now?
Yeah, I know for me, just like team fit, I guess, and like just where they slide in on the roster and like their outlook is affected so much by who they sign like in free agency. I know Andrew might say maybe the summer league play weighs a little bit more heavily for him, but seeing those moves kind of play out as we move deeper into the offseason plays quite a large factor for me. I kind of approach things a little bit differently than I think my colleagues Andrew and Mitchell do from a rookie perspective. I look a lot more at like just where they fit in on the team as it's currently constructed, where I think Andrew and you probably would agree with this, that you guys look at a little bit more long-term than I do, and potential, where I'm more of like a floor versus a ceiling type of guy. So yeah, Mark, to answer your question, it's definitely free agency plays a pretty significant part for me. And then the summer league play, if somebody looks terrible, I'm not going to completely overlook that. The same thing with if they play really well, I'm going to factor that in some as well, right? But maybe not as much as some others would.
Yeah, and kind of echoing off of Braxton here, and from what you've said, with like what kind of the options are of why we do a post-Summer League rookie ranking update, it's more so a combination of all the options above. I would say I most heavily weight it towards free agency and contract status, and then a little bit of sprinkling of Summer League play in there, because I know with Summer League, there is a lot of experimentation. Like, for example, Yegor Demon, basically playing like Klay Thompson in Summer League, or them trying to make him play like that, even though that's probably not the role he's going to be in when he's playing informal NBA games. So there's a lot of experimentation that happens. So, and also too, there's plenty of players such as Alex Sarr last year who have their game really elevated when playing around better teammates, guys who are more focal points on the offense, and he's just so much more of a complementary player as opposed to the guy who's supposed to take over for, let's say the Wizards with Sarr last year in Summer League. So you can't base it too much on the play, because there is a lot of experimentation that happens in Summer League. And what I look at the most is contracts. And what you'll notice with our rookie big boards is like we do one immediately after the draft. And so by doing it immediately after the draft, you don't have a ton of contract information for those guys later on in the first round, and especially the second round guys. And so when we do this updated post-summer league big board, the most movement you see is late first round, early second round, especially with those second rounders. When we start to see contracts, we see guys who are on two ways and guys who are on guaranteed deals. And that obviously plays a huge factor, especially for me personally, since I have a pretty heavy hand on what happens with our second round of our big board. I look quite a bit at who's getting those guaranteed contracts and who's still on a two-way. In addition to that, some of these second rounders you don't have a ton of information on going into the draft. And so Summer League is probably one of your better places to see, what they can do. And there's some other prospects, like some other first rounders. One of them I'll talk about momentarily here, where we didn't really have much evidence of what he could do at all. And so again, Summer League provided that avenue for us to see, what this person can do. And I think really in regards to playing and Summer League performance, I most heavily weight it towards our, sophomore or our returning players going into Summer League. Like I expect you to be dominant. And if you're not dominant, that's a huge red flag to me, where I definitely give a lot of leeway to some of these rookies, especially ones who are on teams that really had no other supporting star players to help them out. It was kind of just them and a bunch of journeymen trying to make the NBA. And so, things are going to be pretty tough for them. They'll have a very low field goal percentage. Maybe the scoring doesn't look great, things along those lines. So, yeah, definitely more into contracts. And then, of course, free agency. And especially once we saw some of those trades happen, too, we'll be like, oh, wow, big roles opened up for this guy potentially. This is somebody to watch here. So that's why you see more movement in the 20s beyond in our big board, and just a slight bit of movement in like the top 20 for us.
And Andrew, I want to apologize for speaking for you and saying you factored in the play a little more.
Well, no, you are right that we do factor in play more than you. That is correct. But at least for myself in particular, I probably weight it more towards the other two options, contracts and free agency and trades. But yeah, I probably do put a little bit more weight into the play as well, too, because there's a lot of these guys where you just didn't really get a good look at them within an NBA context. And Summer League definitely provides that avenue for us.
I think it's interesting that we're seeing, not you all clash, but show this difference of opinion here and how you view and rank these players, because you have three of you over at Angle that are ranking, and then that forms your all's consensus rankings. Do you all have any conversations when you all say, okay, we're going to all work on our rankings and get those updated? Do you all ever talk about players beforehand, or do you make it a point to say, hey, no, we're not talking. We're going all in blindly from each other, and we're just going to see what the math spits out then?
I'd like, so I'll answer, Andrew, and then I think if you probably have some color you want to give as well. If you're talking about the main ones, Mark, it's more so completely separate, really not factoring in how each of us or it's more individualized, right? Obviously, because we have three sets. It's not really, we're not talking and being like, oh, how do you feel about this guy? It's more so to get like the most authentic average of the three. I think doing it completely separate is the way to go there. For the rookie rankings, because we don't necessarily do it the way that we do the main rankings, having three completely sets of ranks, it's more of a collaboration on those rookie ranks. I'm still upset about Sion James being in the 50s in our rankings. Andrew, you mentioned contracts was a huge thing for you, and him having a guaranteed contract I thought was so huge, and I got outvoted, Mark, in terms of his placement on the rookie rankings. So that's one right there for you, a little bit of, I guess, inside baseball on that. But
did you, on that note, did you then vote down Maxime Reynaud? Because, that's Andrew's guy. Like, for those of you who don't know, Andrew loves Maxime Reynaud, and he was one of these second round picks who did get guaranteed money, just to add a little bit of context there.
Sure. I'm not sure there's anything I could say to dissuade Andrew on Maxime Reynaud. Not that I would, but I think that one was pretty locked in regardless.
That one was definitely pretty locked in. And yeah, to echo off of Brax, there is, the way we do rankings is by design. Instead of one person doing it all, or perhaps like Mitchell and I, who have known each other for, almost 10 years now, I want to avoid groupthink as best as possible, or just one line of thinking. So it's by design that we have differing opinions here, which, either with our primary dynasty ranks weighting out the average between the three of us, or with the rookie big boards having a discussion of like, okay, I think this guy should be here. And then someone will chime in, this guy I think is a bit too low. And then maybe the other two of us will come back. So like with Sion James, Braxton's like, oh, I think he's way too low. And then Mitch and I chime back with, well, this is more of a real life player as opposed to a fantasy asset. Yes, he does have a guaranteed contract. That is 100% true. But it's more so, I think there's going to be nights where he will be very valuable to the Hornets on the floor. I don't know if he'll be very valuable to us in fantasy basketball, but we'll see how that one turns out. So far, Summer League, I think, kind of proved Mitchell and I right. But we'll see how the NBA season goes with him when he's playing around stars like LaMelo Ball.
And Mark, there's some details on how I got outvoted because I can't even pronounce his name correctly. So,
I mean, if you can't pronounce his name, how can you go to bat for him?
Exactly.
No, that's great to hear. I think these are definitely guys. I check out y'all rankings just to also make sure, am I crazy or okay? Maybe I'm a little crazy, but it makes sense. So make sure y'all check that out. And it's Angle Fantasy Basketball WordPress. I'll let you all say
anglefantasybasketball.wordpress.com. That's our website that has all of our free rankings on there. Pretty much everything you need to know about us is on that website.
Awesome. So make sure you check them out. Let's switch now to the Summer League play and the actual play. And let's first discuss, let's start on a positive note here. Let's prop up rookies who popped. So Braxton, I'm going to throw it to you first here. Who was a rookie that popped out for you? Who really stood out and said, okay, that's a guy I'm going to need to pay attention to?
Yeah, I think this one is pretty obvious for me. I'm going to go with Knueppel. The reigning Summer League Finals MVP of the Summer League champion Charlotte Hornets. I think he's ready.
Hang the banner.
Hang the banner. It's more than some teams have done in the last 20 years. Let's just be clear. I think he's ready for the big time, and I think we're looking at a decent sized role from day one. Yeah, I know, Colin Sexton and Trey Mann complicate things slightly, especially Trey Mann, who I did not think was returning. But I think they're going to prioritize their fourth overall pick, obviously pending him earning it. And I think he will. And I think his Summer League play showed that he's ready, I guess, to earn it. I think like in a couple of years, I think we're looking at like, and I know maybe this doesn't carry a lot of weight now, but like Eric Gordon type fantasy production, where he kind of has like that splash of assists. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like 11-3-3 from Khan year one. That's going to play a lot. That's going to play in a lot of leagues, depending on, league depth and how many players are rostered, which I guess is also depth, but especially from a rookie. I'm kind of picturing him in Malik Monk's role, not in play style, but just more of his fit on this Hornets team when Malik Monk was in Charlotte a few years ago, with that points floor. And then, like I said, with Eric Gordon, a splash of assists. Khan, just the way that he played, he was commanding on the floor. Obviously, the first option with he had a really good chemistry with PJ Hall, who did not finish out the run, unfortunately, and did sign a two-way with Memphis. But his chemistry with Ryan Kalkbrenner was really nice as well. And I think Knueppel is ready to have the ball in his hands, as well as take any shot that come his way.
It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that here, but we don't see this highest ceiling from Knueppel. We don't see this maybe on-ball usage monster, but you see the great outlines of a player who can be a great complementary piece, play extremely well off others, and then still splash in enough of that on-ball traits and those assists and points to get that up. And that's still very useful. I mean, Eric Gordon was a good fantasy player, a good real life player.
100%. And, and this goes without saying, but there's tons of guys who are, second or third options, and not to make the white guy comparison, but you look at Austin Reeves, he just averaged, I think it was like 24 and 5 last year, just off the top of my head, next to Luka and LeBron. And I'm not saying Knueppel is going to be Austin Reeves, right? And obviously he's not playing against those guys, but you don't need to be that commanding first option to have significant fantasy value. So
If you want to say Braxton, that LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller are better than LeBron James and Luka Doncic, you can go ahead and say that if you want.
It's pretty close. It's definitely up there for me. I don't know. I in terms of in my brain, I think so.
Well, I mean, Braxton likes his Hornets players a lot, and sometimes, like with the rookies, like especially like last year with like Tajon Salon or something like that. Sometimes Mitch and I could be like, okay, calm down. But this year they did a great job. I'm fully on board the Knueppel train. When you're in that 5, 6, 7 range of your dynasty draft, and like let's say you're unsure of your Ace Baileys, your Trey Johnsons, your Yegor Demons, the safety option, if you don't want to risk the lower floor for those 3 guys, is going to Knueppel. In my opinion, that is probably the safest option in that 5 to 7 range. I just really don't see a world where Knueppel doesn't work out. He's going to be a very solid Hornets player. He's going to be a really good player for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even as someone who's not super in on Knueppel's upside, I think it's very unlikely that there's some low floor here. I think he's very likely to just be a solid NBA player, whether it's a high-end rotation player or a nice complementary starter. Andrew, let's go to you now. Who's a rookie who popped for you in Summer League?
So, Brax focused up towards the top of the board there, which is great. I'm fully on board with Knueppel being awesome. I'm going to try to bring the spotlight to some 20s picks here, and I have 3 that I can discuss. So one of these names is a name that was kind of being talked about across the board. A lot of those no ceilings guys really like this guy, what he was doing in Summer League. A lot of us analysts too were really talking about him a lot, and that's Nique Clifford. Someone I gave that Josh Hart archetype. He came out of Summer League averaging 15, 6, and 4 with a steal per game. 9 category numbers. We absolutely love to see that. And I play a free redraft league with Noah Rubin and a few other dynasty analysts for the NCAA every single year. And last year I had Nique Clifford when he was at Colorado State. And I just remember thinking to myself the whole time there, because he was at like 17 points, 9 rebounds a game, and I think like 4 or 5 assists per game. I was like, this guy is an insane 9 category value. He gets anywhere from the 40s to the 20s. Like this is someone I'm going to target heavily in dynasty drafts, and that's what ended up happening. He ended up going in the 20s, and I think Sacramento's got themselves a really good rookie here. A couple other guys. These 2 were surprises to me.
But before we leave Nique Clifford, I just want to ask you. He is an older prospect here. And
he is.
Older prospects between Chris Duarte, Jaime Jaquez, Dalton Connect, all kind of have, I'd say, middling to poor emergences when they were picked early in the first round as older prospects.
The worst examples. Why not look at some of the good examples like Kyle Kuzma or ones that are escaping my memory right now?
One thing I should ask, how old was Josh Hart when he got drafted? I can try to look that up right now. I feel like Josh Hart was an upperclassman too.
To be clear, I do think Nique Clifford is better than those players.
Chris Duarte.
And will succeed. Well, what I wanted to say this was even with his age, I think we all think he's a player who can succeed and has shown that he can succeed and be good and provide enough, not just on-ball value like he did in college, but has enough skills to be off-ball. So like me personally, I'm not too scared of the age, and I know some people might be ageist, but I don't think Nique Clifford is a player that we should be scared of his age. I think we should treat him as a very solid prospect in his own right.
One thing I think Braxton and I can heavily agree on with each other for rookie evaluation is like once we're outside the lottery and approaching 20s, Braxton and I specifically do not care about age whatsoever. If they're 26 and they think we're going to be good, we will recommend somebody pick them. And so that's something I really don't follow at all for like 20s and beyond, because some of these project guys, these 18-year-old project guys in that range are projects. Like these are the rawest of the raw, maybe 2 years in the G League before they become good. Maybe even a Euro stash too is another option that could potentially happen within that range as well. So if it's going to be an upperclassman that we know is going to hit the ground running and they land on a team that needs their services right away, then age is not a factor us at that point. Like the deeper we get into the draft, the more we look at available playing time as opposed to, how many years of prime window am I going to get out of this guy? One guy's 24 and the other one's 19 or something along those lines.
I think that's interesting that you're saying that, because there was another name on the list that you shared with me before the show, and I think you know who I'm referring to, but I'll let you go ahead and talk about this guy next, Andrew.
So both these next two guys are on the young side. These guys are on the young side, and I mostly listed them because they're surprises to me. Asa Newell is one of them. He got drafted by the Atlanta Hawks. This is a pure Georgia boy, born in Atlanta, played for the University of Georgia, got drafted by the Atlanta Hawks. So that in itself is always just a cool story. But 13 points, 8 rebounds, 1 steal per game, and 0.8 blocks per game. He actually shot 43% from 3 and 50% from the floor. It looks very similar to what he did at the University of Georgia last year. So, while I do favor a lot of these upperclassmen who are going to hit the ground running, I think if it gets to like outside the 20s and you ran out of options of viable teenage draft prospects that you think are good ones for your squad, Asa Newell is probably one of the better ones out of that bunch of a freshman coming out of college who might have an okay role, or at least I think is solid for future development that you should, keep a close eye on moving forward. So I was pleasantly surprised how Newell performed in Summer League.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, I did like Newell coming into the draft. Thought he's a really good energy guy whose stats did translate to boards and not flashy defensive stats, but enough there to contribute in both. More of my questions are, and I think these are still questions, is if he's too much of a tweener, if he can shoot. The volume was encouraging. Percentage was nice in Summer League, a little shakier in college. But if he's getting up the shots, that's the important aspect. And so if he can just play that 4 and provide the energy and at least survive on offense at the 4, I think you got an interesting player there, an interesting project that's, I don't want to even say project, an interesting development prospect that could be interesting in a few years' time.
Agreed. I definitely agree. He's a solid one.
So one of my players I want to bring up here, and I'm not doing this just because Braxton is a Hornets fan, but this player did surprise me a little bit, is Liam McNeeley.
Okay.
Who I wasn't super impressed with him with his college freshman season at UConn. Now, do have to note, he did suffer a high ankle sprain, maybe try to play through it, was maybe playing out of role, playing more of a lead initiator option instead of his off-ball wing option. And then he comes to Summer League, and he is kind of driving nicely to the basket. But more importantly, he is attacking the glass hard, was putting up some better assist numbers than he was in college. And I was like, he just looks a lot more physical than I thought he was going than what he showed in college. Braxton, as the resident Hornets fan here, do you have any thoughts on McNeeley?
Yeah, man. I think Jeff Peterson put on a masterclass in terms of the picks that he actually made. We're not going to talk about the market.
I'm going to agree with that. Because a good draft.
I'm going to be completely honest. I was not very aware of Liam McNeeley prior to draft night. And I remember, Andrew, in talking with you on draft night, the impression that I got was that this guy was terrible. So I was like, oh, man, this guy sucks. But seeing him play in Summer League, I feel like he can be a nice piece on this Hornets team. I don't know if there's going to be a role for him year one. I don't think he seems like somebody who's going to play a little bit in the G League, at least year one. But from a fantasy perspective, I think I agree with what you were saying, Mark, in my research afterwards, that he was kind of playing out of role. And that seems to kind of be the consensus of him in college as well, is that they were asking him to do something he really wasn't comfortable with. Same thing with the injury. So there was a lot of factors that were kind of at play. And I think, and this is super anecdotal, but I think I saw like he has odds for Rookie of the Year for some reason. Like he's on like towards the bottom of the odds. Like it's, I don't know. I wanted to mention that because I saw that a couple weeks ago and I thought that was notable. I think he's bad news for Nick Smith Jr. And yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about him. I think in a year or two, he can definitely be something. In terms of how that's going to turn out or relate to fantasy, I don't know. I don't know if he has the skill set. I don't know if he's ever going to have that role to be a contributor in anything outside of a, 24 to 30 team league. But considering where he's going in drafts, I mean, outside of the top 30, usually, definitely somebody I'm targeting, especially with that first round draft capital.
And I think to the points that I think both of you made earlier, or I guess Andrew made it for both of you, when you start getting into those late 20s or early 30s of your rookie drafts, I'm pretty similar to, I do. Yes, I look for guys who could really pop in that range, But in this draft class, it feels like you're just looking for players who can actually play and get minutes. And I think Liam McNeeley could definitely be that player. And if he's adding boards to his fantasy profile, it was a bit more than what that maybe just threes, that shooter profile showed before. And yeah, I mean, maybe it's just one category, but it is something, and it's something that definitely adds another layer of value to this almost, if it's just a threes player, well, threes and some boards, that'll play in a lot of leagues, in a lot of deeper dynasty leagues.
And I just want to clarify, not that I think he surprised most of everyone with his summer league play. Andrew, I mentioned that you said you think he sucks, but that was kind of justified with how he had finished out his college career. So I think, Mark, he definitely fits in somebody that, what was the prompt? Somebody that surprised you from the summer league, or somebody that you were impressed with?
Someone that popped, impressed you, or someone that just showed more than maybe people are talking about.
I think he fits that to a T, because I don't think really many people thought he was going to look as nice as he did on the floor when he was on the floor.
Agreed. That was what, like, Mitch's beta 9 thing is like, oh, it's a shooter who can't shoot. So it's like, not only do these guys who are just shooting heavy don't provide a ton of counting stats outside of scoring and threes, but then we're like, well, look at his season as UConn. He was barely, it's not like this is a 40% three-point shooter or something along those lines. And he really basically turned that narrative completely around in summer league. So what I really take away from that is maybe that injury did have a way bigger impact on him than initially thought. There's also just, honestly, this is going back to Knueppel. There's also just the benefit of playing with Knueppel. I personally think Knueppel is why Khaman Maluach was a lottery pick. That guy literally rose Khaman Maluach up to a first-round lottery pick. That's how good playing with Knueppel is.
So I think it's interesting that you bring up Khaman Maluach here. And I'm just going to use this in transition now to rookies or other players, second-year, third-year players that left us wanting more. And for me, one of those players was Khaman Maluach. You mentioned at the top of this podcast that it was Alex R, who, he struggled in summer league, but he didn't have really players to create for him. And that wasn't his role in the NBA. So struggles are kind of expected for that player type. And Khaman Maluach is similar in that regard. He's a play finishing center who cannot really create for himself. Defense focused big man game. That's not something that's really going to shine too much in summer league. However, given that, I would argue that Khaman Maluach still disappointed me massively. And he was clearly trying to just do things out there that Duke probably wouldn't let him do. And that was shooting threes, trying to take on defenders off the dribble and the post-up game. It looked bad. It looked like there was nothing there. And I'm fine with players trying to do stuff in summer league. That is what it's for. But the fact that he showed literally nothing, I would say, in that regard, besides, I guess, good that you got up threes, but they didn't look good. Didn't make that many. Not that I really don't care about percentages in summer league, but I mean, they didn't really look like great shots. He was just kind of launching them. I was not impressed with anything that Maluach was flashing. And if he is going to hit this potential of being, a center who can actually add stuff on offense besides play finishing, he seems miles away from that point.
I don't think people. I don't think people are talking enough about kind of building off your point there, Mark. People are talking enough about how crowded it is in Phoenix. I mean, obviously it's crowded. We all know it's crowded, but just for some reason, I feel like in rookie drafts, it's being overlooked a lot more. Like, he's like this slam dunk landing spot. Oh my God, it's going to be great with Booker, but he's the third string center. I mean, Nique Richards obviously has a super tradable contract. Not that I think Nique Richards is some world beater, but he's ahead of him on that depth chart right now. I think Maluach is going to be in the G League to start the season. I mean, I think there's no way around that. And if the Suns want to stay competitive, and again, with the caveat that they don't trade Nique Richards, I know he's been rumored in some packages for like Kuminga, for example. Where is the pathway for Maluach to play this year and then also moving forward? I mean, he's stuck behind Mark Williams. There's no reason why the Suns aren't going to extend Mark Williams. So I guess my thinking isn't necessarily about Maluach's play in the summer league, which definitely factors into it a lot with the points you made, Mark. But he's fully blocked. I mean, we could be looking at like a Clint Capella Onyeka Okongwu situation here with Mark Williams in Capella, where it's like, okay, he'll get his chance at some point, but it's 4 years later and he still hasn't had that chance, right? Not comparing the play styles or anything, but I'm talking about purely just being blocked at that level. I mean, his best case scenario right now, as things stand, is a 24-24 split with Mark Williams. I think Mark Williams is legitimately good. And if we're going to value him kind of as a community in that top 40, top 50 range, which a lot of people are, including us, you cannot have Maluach as high as a lot of people do. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent point. And you don't trade for Mark Williams and then not extend him or not have plans for him, at least in your future today. Things could change. Knock on wood, Mark Williams could get injured. Hopefully he doesn't get injured, but he could. And then plans change. He doesn't get extended. Maluach has run. I don't think from a process standpoint we should view it that way, though. As you're saying, you illustrated pretty well. Mark Williams is probably there for at least a few seasons, you would think. And if that's the case, well, unless Maluach is just that damn good from day one, he's not going to get that opportunity. Andrew, do you share? Oh, go ahead, Braxton.
I just want to clarify. I know that there's barely any rookies walking into an excellent situation in terms of playing time, but specifically this one, I think it's just really going to be really tough for him to overcome. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, with Maluach, like Braxton said, okay, there's a possibility of this 24 minute split. And it's we have seen a 2-center rotation, not on the floor at the same time, but just a rotational timeshare be successful in both real life and fantasy before, like with Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively a couple of years ago. But both of those guys were really good, and both of those guys basically are NBA level starters, where I don't think it's the same situation with Maluach and Mark Williams both being starters that are deserving of 20 plus minutes. I do think there is a 20-ish plus minute backup center role up for grabs. To Brax's credit, Nick Richards does complicate things for a little bit. And at this moment in time, Maluach's value is more theoretical as opposed to he's going to hit the ground running and be really good right away. There is that opportunity to grab those minutes, but Phoenix fully revamped their front court. Not only is there those three centers we discussed, there's Rasheer Fleming, there's still Oso Ighodaro, Royce O'Neal can play power forward too. So there is, a pretty crowded front court going on in Phoenix right now, and I don't necessarily know if 20 plus minutes is going to go to Maluach right away. I think it might start at maybe half of that and then potentially go up if maybe Williams gets hurt, Nick Richards gets traded, or Maluach just ends up being way better than we all three are potentially thinking he might be. But as of right now, I agree with you too, Mark, that I wasn't fully impressed with what he did at Summer League. I know he's one of those players who will benefit from playing with guys who have a lot of gravity on them, such as Devin Booker and such as Jalen Green. But I would have liked to see a little bit more from that. At this point, he's just, hyper athletic, and he is still fairly new to basketball too, from the standards of he's not someone who's been playing since he was 8 years old. He's been playing since he was 15 years old. So, he's still kind of figuring out the game a little bit as he goes too.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I forgot to mention at the beginning of this segment, this is Summer League. It's okay for rookies to struggle. I would argue it is normal for rookies to struggle. So yes. I think I speak for all of us. We're not trying to bash on these rookies, say that they won't develop into good prospects or that we aren't even fans of them long term, because we still could be. We're just mentioning things that we saw that maybe, hey, we're keeping an eye on it, notes in the back of our head, things like that, and things that we are noting more than making any declarative statements, because it's Summer League. It is a small sample. So even though I feel like I can definitely be more negative on players in that regard, it is Summer League caveats all around here. With that in mind, Braxton, trying to be positive here, but I'm going to ask you negatively. Which rookies left you wanting more? Which rookies did not live up to your standard?
My standard is hilarious. Nolan Traore is going to be it for me. I know he just finished a long season over in France, and he's probably tired, right? Which I get, and I'm not saying that he needs to be coming in super fresh, but he's getting drafted a little high for me in rookie drafts, and I have some concern about him just to how crowded Brooklyn is. Obviously, we all know how similar to Phoenix. Everybody knows how crowded Brooklyn is, but he looks not good. He's fast, but my main concern is, where does this fantasy viability come from on this Nets team that has so many ball handlers. And I know he only played 3 games in the summer in the summer league, but he averaged the same amount of assists as Tosan Ewelma and Drew Timme, while only shooting 30% from the field, which his thing is supposed to be the assists, right? It's like, okay, we know he's going to get assists, and then if the scoring comes in, then he'll be a good player. But, he doesn't seem super confident when driving, and I don't think he will tally assists enough on this Nets team with them drafting Demon and Ben Saraf, excuse me, who also didn't look great either. As I said, his appeal was like the passing and just wasn't there in what we saw. And I expect him to spend a ton of time in the G League this season. And probably next, as he just doesn't look ready. I know how young he is. I know he's supposed to be a project, and I know that's why the Nets made all of their first round picks, because they don't need all of them to play right away. But for somebody going in the early 20s of drafts, I'm usually taking a floor guy like Ryan Kalkbrenner, Maxime Renaud, or maybe even Danny Wolf, because his role is just so much clearer to me, rather than a pure ceiling guy like Traore, which is just kind of how I approach things in that range. But yeah, there's just not a clear path there to me. And I wanted to see a little bit more of him to stand out kind of from the rest of the next Nets rookies. If he turns into anything, I'm thinking it's like 4 years from now. And just from a Dynasty basketball perspective, I don't think that's a smart way to approach things, is planning on 4 years from now. So
yeah, as someone who I'm pretty sure I am pretty above consensus on Nolan Traore, might be the highest on him in the Dynasty community.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Look what you did, Braxton.
I picked the worst one.
No, but I have to. I mean, the summer league was not encouraging. You didn't, as you did, you didn't see those assists. You didn't see him get those volume of threes up. You didn't see him necessarily push the scoring. It was like, yeah, okay, he was fast, got in the lane at times, and did not a lot with it. And that's not.
He's fast. He definitely fast per. If that was a cacategory, he'd be dominant.
Yeah, bursts per 90 minutes or something, using a soccer term there. But yeah, I know. I mean, I can't deny that he didn't look good in summer league, and it wasn't encouraging. I guess the encouraging thing was that none of the other rookies in Brooklyn looked great. So I think we'll be waiting to see which rookies emerge from Brooklyn and actually do maybe get the lion's share of the usage there. I think it's still up for grabs personally. Andrew, did you have a player that didn't stand out for you, or was Khaman Maluach really that, I want to say, the main rookie who failed for, fail. I'm using too negative language.
Crazy.
Failed. Wow. Yeah.
Failure. Bust. All right. Well, Mark, unfortunately, I think I'm going to be attacking one of your guys again. Braxton and I are going after your guys.
Coordinated.
But this guy, though, he plays in a position where you have to be much more lenient on their shooting. So for me, I wanted to see a little bit more out of Kasparas Jakucionis. 9, 2, and 2. He did get 1.5 steals per game, though, during Summer League, which was nice. I probably would have liked to just see the scoring be a little bit more steady, a little bit better than 21% from 3. I know he's a better three-point shooter than that. His three-point shooting is one of the reasons why we favored him initially over Yegor Demon, but obviously draft night and our post-draft big board changed because Yegor went a lot higher than he did. But we still love the landing spot in Miami for Kasparas. We loved it a ton on draft night, and even though Norman Powell is now there, we still love it. So the Clippers starting lineup last year had Powell at the 3. They started Harden, Chris Dunn, and Norman Powell, all 3 together on most nights. So a starting lineup of Tyler Herro, Davion Mitchell, and Norman Powell is possible, with Kasparas being one of the main front court players coming off the bench. He is 6'6", so he does have that viability to go kind of 1 through 3 if you wanted him to be that way. So I think of the guys who we have in the lottery of our big board, Kasparas still does have one of the clearest paths to playing time right away. But if he's at 7, 2, and 2 during the season, shooting 30% from the field and 21% from 3. That's what you expect out of a rookie point guard. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with. Normally, rookie point guards' year one stats are pretty ugly. But to see it already flashing in Summer League, where the competition is easier, is something that bummed me out a little bit. So I would have liked to have seen a steadier performance from Jakucionis where, going into the season here.
Yeah, and you're right. Kasparas Jakucionis is one of my guys. I have him 5th on my rookie board, which probably sounds crazy to some of you listening. But at the same time, the summer league wasn't great. And even beyond the stats, it's that he wasn't handling that pressure too well, wasn't able to necessarily, I would say, dispel any notions that he could be physical, get by his man without use of a screen. In screening actions, it looked a little smoother, looked more in flow, could get downhill. But without that screen, that's the weaknesses that were in the scouting reports did flash there. So that's definitely a little concerning.
We still believe in. I still believe in Kasparas, though. We still have him as a lottery prospect on our big board. If we thought it was really bad, we would have dropped him outside of the lottery. But I think he's still like 11th or 12th for us. So he is still lottery for us. And like I said, we still do really like the Miami landing spot for him too.
And not to, I guess, pile on, Mark, because I know you like him, but I thought the 1 for 15 with 12 turnovers was impressively bad. So that's something he's got going for him. And then I'm actually going to defer kind of, Andrew, from where we're thinking what you mentioned with the landing spot. It's not actually my favorite. I think Miami is a little more crowded than it seems on the surface. I mean, they still have minutes that need to go to guys like Jaime Jaquez, who I don't think Jakucionis is going to get prioritized over somebody like him. If you remember, Jaquez was getting DNPs in the second half of the season, so those minutes are going to have to come from somewhere. I also think Pele Larson might be ahead of him in the rotation. And the fact that they didn't get Terry Rozier, or excuse me, they didn't have to trade much for Norman Powell at all, really indicates to me that he's hoping that they want him to kind of fill in where Terry Rozier was. So there's an even higher boost of minutes because, as we know, those Terry Rozier minutes really dipped in the second half of the season, again, with him falling out of the rotation at times. So I have some personal concern with Jakucionis in his role, at least this year. And I think especially with somebody like Spoelstra, those rookies are really going to have to earn it. Especially with the contract they gave Davion Mitchell. There's just some concern there for me as well. He obviously projects, and I agree with our placement of him in the lottery. I like him as a ceiling play, but I don't really like him as a floor play, maybe as much as you do, Andrew.
Yeah, that's the hope is that the 3 spot is mostly occupied by Norm and Jaquez, and then 1 and 2 is delved between Harrow, Mitchell, Jakucionis, and probably Pele Larson too. That's at least the hope. But Spoelstra's rotations last year were wild.
Yeah, they're gonna be weird.
It's pretty hard to say anything concrete at this moment in time for anybody in that rotation besides Tyler Harrow.
I mean, he loves Davion Mitchell. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah. And not that I like Davion Mitchell too, but like he was playing so many minutes. So like it's going to be tough for him to pry any of those away from him, I feel like.
Mitchell is the definition of a SPO player for sure.
So would you say he epitomizes #heat culture then?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Davion Mitchell is heat culture. That's for sure.
The rotation, you got Davion Mitchell, Tyler Harrow, Andrew Wiggins, Bam Kellaware, I would say, getting a lot of minutes. Norm Powell as well. You got a pretty firm top 6, and you got those bevy of names past that. Now, I think Jakucionis will prove himself, be better than he was in Summer League, but there's certainly the case where, hey, no, he doesn't make it into that 7th, 8th, 9th man spots, and he is on the fringes early on, and then you just have to be left wondering, what's in the mystery box? It could be anything. Maybe a boat. Who knows?
I just want to toss out. This is. Keep an eye on Drew Smith. They just brought him back for his 6th 2-way in a row. I don't know how many 2-ways they give this guy in a row, and he's torn his ACL 4 years in a row. But Spo loves him, so I honestly, at least early in the season, would not be surprised if we see some Drew Smith minutes. So I just want to toss that out there as well.
Yeah, he intrigued me. What was it, 10 to 20 games that he played before he did suffer that injury?
He looked really good when he was healthy.
He showed some stuff. I do like that shout a lot.
What an insane injury, too. Literally having the floor cave in under him and making his knee tweak and tear his ACL. That is just horrible.
One of the most unlucky guys. Every time he gets a shot, he just tears something. It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, hopefully he comes back healthy. Hopefully he can show a little bit of what he was showing. If you're in, 350, 400 plus and you're looking for a stash, Drew Smith is probably floating on your wire somewhere out there.
I just want to clarify. So they have a two-way offer sheet extended to Drew Smith, despite him being ineligible for the two-way. So there's some weirdness going on there with that. But yeah, I just wanted to issue a correction.
And hopefully he find a way to keep him.
I don't know what that means and what he's eligible to sign. I think it's weird that they can have that extended. But sorry, we don't have to spend any more time on Drew Smith.
No, it sounds like we're transitioning to now more positive sides, and that's where I want to end this on this podcast. We already talked about players that we have labeled failures and are never going to succeed in the NBA and bust. Now let's talk about players who have already seen 1 year in the NBA and maybe showed us more in Summer League. So these are going to be second or third year players that impress at the Summer League. Andrew, you kind of hinted at it at the top of the show. You want your second and third year players to show out and show, I'm here, I have this experience, I'm ready to take the stage in the NBA, prove my mettle, and show you what I can do. Andrew, which non-rookie stood out for you?
So this guy is probably aside from Asar Thompson, who did not play in Summer League, this guy is one of my favorite picks for a breakout year next year, and that's Buzelis. So he only played in a couple of games, but he had 22 points per game for the 2 games that he played. And he did also have 5 rebounds, which is okay. I never really expected his rebounds to be super high. And then he did get a steal and 1.5 blocks per game. The field goal percentage was a little low. I think they did pump a ton of usage into him, which is probably not something that's ever going to be a major factor in his role in the NBA. And he shot a little bit over 30% from 3 too. So the scoring output, the maturity, that's like I said at the beginning of the show, the players I look most heavily towards for actual Summer League performance and not looking as much on contracts and other types of specifics is either the second round guys we didn't know a ton about or the returning players. You better be a man amongst children. You better get the official label of too good for Summer League. That's how you know that there's been some significant progress made. And Buzelis fits that mold. So he's just someone where last year we actually we finished off our final big board because we just did our final big board a couple weeks ago for the 9-cat rookies. Last year with our final big board, we finished with Madas at number 3. So we've been very high on him for a while now. From February onwards, you saw a little bit of a hint of what is to come from last year. And then this year, just going out a couple of games, averaging over 20 points per game in Summer League this year. The only knock I will give him is he's the one that let his defensive assignment blow by him. He let Johnny Furphy blow by him and put Noah Esenge on one of the absolute worst posters I have ever seen before in my life. So that's the only negative I'll get him is he did his boy Noah pretty dirty there.
I want to say I was traveling for work in a hotel room, so of course I have Summer League games on, and I just see Johnny Furphy of all players make a move, drive hard down the lane, and just slam it on Noah Esenge. And if you haven't seen that picture, just look up Johnny Furphy slam or Noah Esenge poster. You will find it on Google. It is one of the most unfortunate standstill photos and posters you will find.
Yes. It is one of the most, and Mitch was really high on Noah Esenge going into the draft too. So I sent him a screenshot of that picture more than once.
You should just make it like some emote on Discord or something. And
that's the close-up of the face that he's making for sure.
No, I mean, Buzelis is someone I'm lower on, but you see the mentality, you see the drive, and it's very evident every time he gets the ball or enters the court that he wants to dominate his opponent and dominate the court on his play. And I think that has shown through in Summer League. And he's still not even he still has plenty of physical development, I'd say, to go. And so the fact he is displaying that mentality and that drive now, when he bulks up, could be a very fascinating combo there. Braxton, what was a non-rookie that impressed you?
Yeah, I took a little bit of a different approach to this, and I actually have 2. So my first is going to be DaRon Holmes. And, can we be done with the Zeke Naji experiment, please? I know that the Nuggets brought in.
He's got 3 more years left. Oh
my God. When he signed that contract, I was like, what did he do to earn this contract? I mean, it's insane. And I know the Nuggets brought in JV, and obviously if he left for Europe, it would have been a lot more interesting for Holmes. But, I still think there should be some minutes for here for DaRon at minimum semi-frequently. In the summer league, he looked really good. Despite this essentially being his rookie year, he did 13 and 7.5 boards, 2 threes per game, which I think is especially two made threes per game, I should say, not just taking. And he shot 42% from three. Again, I know this is a very low sample size, but I'm thinking he turns into what the Nuggets hoped Zeke Naji was going to be. I think how Holmes looks this season from a fantasy perspective depends heavily on how this new Nuggets regime wants to use Peyton Watson. Obviously, if they're running lineups with him and Cam Johnson at the 3 and 4, him being Peyton Watson, Cam Johnson 3 or 4, it might be a little more difficult for Holmes to crack the rotation. But I think Holmes is going to force their hand. He just projects as such a perfect fit next to Jokic. And if you drafted him last year and held through the injury as opposed to selling low, which I personally would have sold, I'm completely against stashing players that have injuries, which is maybe my downfall sometimes. I would be feeling really good right now. I'm very excited about Holmes. He looked really good and seems to be that player that you thought you were getting when you draft him. And real quick, don't laugh. Bronny James is going to be my second one. The Lakers seem to be legitimately Mark, I see you laughing.
I'm not laughing. That's fair.
No audio coming from my mic.
The Lakers seem to be legitimately high on him, and I think there's a non-zero chance he gets a legitimate NBA minutes this year. This is more of an eye test one as opposed to a statistical, but there's no reason this guy can't turn into a Gabe Vincent type player in this league with the defense he has. I know that's such an obvious comparison to make with Gabe Vincent, his time on the Lakers. But and again, this one is catered more specifically to deep leagues, but he's probably available in most leagues that are like 24 teams and under. And him being LeBron's son, I think just gives him a longer leash than a lot of players would have had, right? But with that being said, he does look like an NBA player, in my opinion. And JJ Redick is constantly talking him up and just talking about how physical he needs to be and how there's a role in the NBA for guys like him and what he needs to do to achieve that role and meet his ceiling of a Davion Mitchell type player or something like that. So if you're in a league that is 24, maybe 16, 24 teams, he's probably available. I would grab him, see if he does anything, keep it at the end of your bench. Could be a fun stash. And if you have LeBron, there's a nice chemistry boost there for your squad, nice little locker room boost. Morale is going to be high, and the vibes are going to be really high, and it will lead you to championships.
Yeah,
I might go on a tangent here. I think did you all ever play like the Backyard Sports series by any chance?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so basically it was like this. For those of you who aren't unaware, Backyard Sports, it's a bunch of kind of playground kids, and you can pick them, and you just basically play in like different parks or like playground parks or people's backyards or whatever. So it's kind of a fun game as a kid. But different players, you could pick them, and if like you picked these twins and they're on your same team, they would get stat boost. So when you mentioned Braxton, if you have LeBron James, you get Bronny James, you get a stat boost.
It's real. I swear to God. I have LeBron in multiple dynasty leagues, and I had Bronny. I did have to drop him for playoff situation type stuff, but I had Bronny all year in those dynasty leagues, and it made LeBron better. So and my team was in good spirits the entire time.
There is something fun about the boost. Like Mitchell in one of the dynasty leagues I'm in has both Thompson twins on the same team, and every time I look at it, I just shake my head like, God damn it, that's so cool. Like
I tried for years to have the Martin twins, which is a much worse version of that, obviously. But I think they failed in the NBA, or they haven't failed. They're still in the league, but did not turn into those legitimate players because I was never able to pair them up. I think so.
It's your fault.
It's Braxton's fault. Yeah,
I do assign myself some blame for Cody Martin being unsigned.
But I think what goes against that theory is that you said you dropped Bronny James in the playoffs.
I had to.
If he was that good, you wouldn't drop him.
No, I did. I regretted it immediately, and the person that picked him up in both leagues just refused to give them back, regardless of how much I was paying. So I did it, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? And so that was a mistake. I will admit.
Vibes ruined.
Yeah, vibes ruined. I'm skilled. Now, I thought Bronny James looked good on defense. I don't know what he's going to bring for fantasy, but he looked good.
No, that's the selling point. Like the comp is like Avery Bradley, Davion Mitchell, Gabe Vincent. Like none of those three are barn burners, like bucket getters, anything like that. They're really good at staying in front of their man. And like Braxton said, it was more eye test than stats. Like he looked like way more comfortable than he did last year.
No, I agree with that.
And if he can get on the floor, then maybe the fantasy skill set will come. I mean, Avery Bradley, Andrew, you mentioned, Avery Bradley had a couple nice seasons in 9-cat, right? So if Bronny somehow is able to work his way, I mean, the tangibles and the tools are there. And this is why I mentioned him, because that defense is there. If he's able to knock down threes and steal the ball, I mean, that's what you need from a fantasy perspective. That's why I like him as an end of your bench guy. I like him a lot more than, I don't know, pretty much anybody you would take after 30 this year in a rookie draft. I don't know, Andrew, if you'd agree with that, but just like from pure stability of the team he's on and potential outlook, there's not many guys I like more than Bronny after 30, which may be a hot take. I don't know. Might view things a little bit differently than some people do.
I feel like we're being ESPN right now because we're spending so much time on Bronny James. But one last question.
Now let's compare Michael Jordan and LeBron.
I'll do one last question here on Bronny James. Bronny James or Sion James?
Oh, good question. I'm going to go with
Sion James is being drafted after 30. So let's just.
No, you're right. And not if I had anything to say about it. I guess I'd still take him after 30. It'd be early 30s. But I think Bronny might be a better fantasy player than Sion James.
Okay. All right. I will leave it there. With Bronny James. I did love the DaRon Holmes shout. He's someone actually in the league last year when I was rebuilding. I did trade for him midway through the season. And so I loved how he looked, and I'm loving that trade now. So
I liked him a lot pre-draft last year too. That Achilles injury was brutal, but you should take this for because we saw a plethora of Achilles injuries last year, and you should take this as evidence as how far of Achilles injury recovery has come. The fact that DaRon Holmes looks this good already at this point in the year, considering he tore his Achilles basically a calendar year ago.
He was practicing towards the end of the last season.
Right, exactly.
There was people saying maybe he'll get in a game. I don't think that was ever actually going to happen, but he was doing stuff. So
it might be a career ender if you're 35, but if you're Jason Tatum and you're still 27, look at this as evidence of how far Achilles injury recovery has come.
Yeah, knock on wood that it's the same timeline, and so far so good in there. I'm going to throw out a player here that impressed me, and it's a player that I think I'm pretty down on comparatively amongst the Dynasty community, but maybe a little more back in on him, and that's Kyshawn George for the Washington Wizards.
There's no way.
Brax going on Kyshawn.
You just said that. That's insane. I go ahead, Mark. I'll let you make the point, and then I'm going to have to say.
Okay, I actually don't know which way. If you're going like, no, you're right, Mark.
Big
Everyone
fans.
should be more big fans. Okay. Rookie season, everyone's talking about this great connector, great defender, and I'm like, okay. I mean, he looks, I would say, above average defensively, but fine steal and block rates, nothing special. The shot's not going in. The offense is pretty ugly. I'm not really sure what he's adding here offensively. And he's just kind of, he's good on defense. It's not game changing, but in Summer League, he was actually doing some stuff off the ball, pushing players away from him, hitting these nice little mini step backs, shooting well, looks physically good stat lines. And that was an angle that I didn't see from him. And I'm not sure if he's going to have that on-ball role, but if he can add that element to his game, maybe then up that efficiency some, I'll be a little more in on him as a long-term starter. Braxton, I'll go ahead and give you the floor here, though.
So I want to apologize for coming in so hot. For some reason, I thought we were still on the guys you were down on. So I heard Kyshawn George, and I got very upset very quickly.
I told you, don't get Brax going on Kyshawn, dude.
No, get going. Come on.
I mean, Andrew and I are huge Kyshawn George fans.
Yes.
I don't think the inefficiency matters really in a even in a 9-category setting with some of the supplemental stats he was putting up. I mean, it was insane. We'd see, 6 steal games, 5 block games any given night, right? He has the potential for it. It seems like the Wizards have no problem letting him shoot whenever he wants. So if he's going to shoot 38, 39% from the floor and be the defender that he is, it seems like Brian Keefe and the Wizards are fine with that, which is fine with me. So somebody that excels the way that he does on the defensive end, I can overlook those inefficiencies on offense. I think he should be in the conversation as around a top 100 asset pretty easily on this Wizards team. So, Mark, just reinforcing your point, I think he looked great. I think he's going to be great, maybe not in real life, but as a fantasy player. And, that's what we're doing here, right? So as long as he's on this Wizards team, or if he gets moved to a team where he's in some kind of starting role a few years down the line, I think he's going to be a beast. I mean, it's just the stat lines are just too good to overlook. And I think sometimes people conflate real life viability with that fantasy skill set. And I mean, I do it myself sometimes, right? I look at okay, this guy's playing 25 minutes, but he's not really doing anything. But Kyshawn George, I don't know, just the way that he would, I owned him in so many leagues last year, and seeing him rack up 6 steals pretty frequently, 5 blocks pretty frequently. I mean, Andrew, you and I both had him in the industry pickup league.
He was huge.
Look at the box score, be like, oh my God, this guy has 4 steals and 5 blocks. And what felt like every night. And doing that with first off, doing that from the guard position, and then also doing that with the 3-pointers along with it, there's not much more you can ask for. So again, Mark, I want to apologize for assuming you were going to be down on Kyshawn.
No need.
No, like we talked about with the inefficiency, he's one of those guys. There's plenty of these guys out there, especially wing players, where their field goal percentage almost matches their 3-point percentage, and that's the indication that majority of the shots they're allowed to take are threes. He had about 8 field goal attempts per game last year, and 5 of those were 3-pointers. So that's what his main role is. So, it's not like he's going to be shooting 50% because he's always right underneath the rim. His job is to shoot threes and help spread the floor for everybody else. And that's what is going to continue to be his job. But instead of just being a 3-point shooter with an empty stat set, he gets boards, he can pass, he gets blocks, he gets steals. So, contributing, it's, especially if you're like one of these punt points guys, you're getting the 1-1 basically, and you're getting 4 rebounds and over 2 assists per game. So Kyshawn fits into pretty much any mold that you can think of. And he's a real part of that tough defensive identity that the Wizards are forming. There was some star player last year, I want to say it was someone on the Suns, maybe Durant or Booker, who was talking about how the Wizards are starting to become pretty nasty defensively, and highlighted Kyshawn George specifically as someone who's really tough to shake off and someone who just comes on with a very intense defensive motor. He's reaching, he'll foul you hard if he needs to. So I think the Wizards really like him long term. And I'll give a shout out to our boy Case, who's does a lot of angle content with us. He when I went to Summer League with him last year, he called him Kyshawn George, and I like that nickname for him quite a bit.
Maybe we can get that to the official lexicon. It can show up on the B-ball reference page where they they list 20 nicknames for a player, and you wonder where 5 of them came from.
Right.
But no, I think we'll leave it on that high note with Kyshawn George there. Before we head out on this podcast, Braxton and Andrew, appreciate you coming on, having some great discussion here. Anything else you all want to shout out?
So again, our website, anglefantasybasketball.wordpress.com, is where you can follow all of the content that we produce, all the platforms that we're on. That website right there is the link tree to take you to everything that we do. All of our stuff is going to be on there. So if you want to follow us, that's the best way to do so. Subscribe to Mark's channel. His YouTube channel is new. You best be subscribing. You best be subscribing to all of our YouTube channels. You best believe we're going to be putting this video within our feed of our YouTube as well. So subscribe to everybody. We are on the push for 500 YouTube subscribers. Let's get Mark right up to 500 as well too.
Yeah, and we've got our own podcast that Mark has been featured on quite a bit. So if you like Mark and his stuff, be sure to check out the episodes that he's been on.
Right, we've been on a lot of pods together. The chemistry's building. It's a very loose conversational structure now. Not lots of laughs in between too. I like where this is going.
No, I enjoy every time we pod together, and I appreciate that YouTube shout out. Again, if you're listening, it takes a few clicks. Just hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Just a little click, like, subscribe. If you're listening on audio, same thing. Just go in your podcast player, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get the latest pods in your feeds as soon as they drop. Braxton, you got anything you want to say?
No, I think Andrew covered it. I just I'm glad we got to spend a few minutes on Bronny James on your Summer League.
I mean, maybe we'll put him on the screen grab here, and then that way we'll get people will come and see Bronny James.
Hey man, if you think fantasy discussion, you're thinking Bronny James. That's just how it goes. So
yeah, he was definitely on the forefront of my mind when I updated my dynasty rankings over this past week and dropped those. Well, without further ado, take in these summer league thoughts. Think about these players as you head into your rookie drafts, into your rookie offseason, not your rookie offseason, your dynasty offseason periods. And we'll see you next time on the Punt Intended podcast presented by FanDuel. See you.